Are you planning on racing Ironman Arizona this year? If so, strap yourself in because there's two very experienced Ironman U certified coaches that are going to go through all you need to know about the course. Not only that, we also have a local expert coach who's going to give you complete insights into the course based on his own experiences and the athletes he's got the starting line. So, who are we though? My name is Stephen Moody, or Coach Steve to my athletes. I am an Ironman U certified coach for around 10 plus years. I've been coaching triathlon and Ironman for us 20 years, and I've got a number of athletes to Arizona. But what I'm really excited to talk to is Jason Lentzke from Arizona itself, who has actually coached a number of athletes going this year as well to Ironman Arizona. Jason, how are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm doing well. Thank you. Yeah, like you've been coaching for quite a while, been doing endurance sports my whole life, and have been coaching with Toro Performance since about 2012. So, yeah, really excited for this one, Steve, because it is my hometown course. We've coached probably more than 50 athletes across the finish line in Tempe. So, excited to share some course tips. Just local nuggets that will help you get that extra edge on race day in November.
Fantastic. This is exactly so. As I said, this is going to be an absolutely belter video for anyone going either doing their first Arizona or looking to PB on this course. Jason is going to give you some massively useful info. So let's get straight to it. Swim course. This is the new swim course they're working on. Looks like it's a one lap course. How do you get your guys? What's the feedback from your guys so far on the swim course?
Yeah, pretty straightforward course. Expect water temps to be about 15 to 16 Celsius, or about 60 degrees or just under. So, wetsuit legal every time. I've never seen the swim be a swim skin only swim. Expect a crisp, refreshing water for the start of your long day. Very non-technical swim, which is a bonus. You're going to get in just left of, I think that's the Mill Street Bridge, and head north. And then make a long straight shot towards, I believe that's Priest. I could have my streets mixed up, so forgive me. But you can use the bridges as landmarks. I think the trickiest aspect of this swim is when you make that first right-hand turn in a long straight, the sun is rising. So it can be really difficult to sight. What you can do is kind of use the shore as an opportunity to make sure you're swimming tangents. But yeah, really go with the tinted goggle here, obviously, because you're going to be swimming directly into that sun. And then again, as soon as you hit that second bridge, okay, I'm going to be turning soon. I'm going to be turning soon. So yeah, you're going to make that 90-degree turn and then go under the bridge again. And then it's a long drag back to essentially where you got in. Now, this is a huge advantage as the course used to actually exit near that bridge. So it was a long run back to transition. So you get to swim all the way back to nearly where you went in, and it makes for a very short, quick transition. Cold water, though. Expect cold water. You won't be able to get in morning of, but you can certainly get a feel for the water the day before there's a practice swim. You can bring some cold water, maybe in a water bottle, to reduce the potential for that shock of cold water when you get in. Just dump that ice water down your wetsuit so you don't have that initial shock. Because, look, that cold water can induce a panic attack in even the most experienced swimmers. So be ready for a cold shock. If you don't have the opportunity to get in the day before, definitely bring some ice water to kind of prepare your central nervous system for what's to come.
Cool. And in terms of the water quality, is it crystal clear? Is it like a beautiful Norwegian forward, or is it a little bit different?
Oh, it's like Cozumel. It's crystal clear. It's like swimming in a fish tank. It's not. No, it's pretty murky. Most desert bodies of water are pretty murky. Don't expect to be able to even kind of see your elbow. So no, not the best quality of water. As a coach, I would encourage my athletes to use the great public pools we have in Tempe and Scottsdale the day before, just to reduce the risk of getting any kind of bug, or you never know. Open water can be funny. So I would swim in the pools the day before and save Tempe Town Lake for race day only.
Yeah, no, agreed. And in terms of is there any current here that the guys, are they swimming against current, or is it just, was it still water?
Technically, it's a moving body of water, but I've never really noticed a current coming back in, so the flow should be going technically left to right, but I've never noticed it at all in all my years of supporting and being out there.
Okay. And the boys always on your left as they're going up and turning around?
Yep, that's correct. That's correct. Plenty of support on this course in terms of kayaks, and yeah, definitely one of the most popular North American races. So whether you're trying to swim, 55 minutes or 95 minutes, you're gonna have plenty of feet to swim on.
Cool, actually. And it's a rolling swim start as well. So we'll talk a bit about that for people who are new to Ironman racing. Ironman for the last couple of years have implemented this system of a rolling swim start where you self-seed yourself beforehand, as in like you, as Jason correctly pointed out, you can, if you're swimming under an hour or you're swimming 90 minutes, there'll be a corral where you actually put yourself in, and there'll be a big sign that says whatever 90 minutes or 80 minutes the way you're looking for. And then how Ironman will allow you into the water is they'll each the fastest swimmers will go off first. So the sub 60 minutes fish will be let in first, but they'll all have to do the same system where you'll be directed into these kind of gates. And you can see the Ironman volunteers here. By the way, I always say thank you and smile at the volunteers. They're giving up their time to help you race. Every kind of 4 or 5 seconds, a beep will go off, and this guy will lift his arm, this guy will lift his arm, and they'll let in four, or depending on the amount of gates, five swimmers at a time. It means there's a nice controlled flow into the water. And how you seed yourself is on your expected swim time. So if you have only swam 90 minutes for a 3.8K swim, don't expect you're suddenly going to swim much faster on the day. You put yourself in the 90-minute corral. That has two benefits. One, it means that you will not be swam over by more powerful swimmers, and they will unapologetically let you do that. And two, it means you'll swim with swimmers of the most of roughly your same level. And as Jason said, that's what you're looking for. You're looking to swim on someone's feet, or not swim on someone's hip, and that will break a little bit of water and make you save a bit of energy on race day. Any tips about seeding themselves or just generally trying to save energy in the swim, Jason?
No, and I think we mentioned this in the last video. I think the biggest tip is talk to your fellow athletes. Like, hey, what do you plan to swim? What do you plan to swim? And if they look at you cross-eyed, like they have no plan, step away. Just make sure you're kind of around similar ability athletes. It's just comforting for everyone and just gives everyone peace of mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, and then you said it's a short run to transition. So we'll talk a little bit about transition, or any other last minute swim tips.
No, dark goggle tint for sure. It may be very low light to start, but you're going to want that for the main drag into the sun. And wetsuit for sure. I think biggest talking points there.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, possibly just save the Tempe River for the day of. There is the practice swim, which you'll talk about by the time till the end. Probably not worth the risk if you're going to pick up something that close to game day. Alrighty. Okay. And in terms of swim cutoff, you have 2 hours and 20 minutes to get the job done. But as I said, pace it well, put yourself in the right corral, and swim off someone's hip or their feet, and you should be game ball. Okay. All right. So transition, it's a single transition, Jason.
Yep. Yep. It is a single transition, and they removed the massive long run to P1 that used to be there. So yeah, single transition makes it much easier to set up your bag, which let's get into.
Yep. So again, just for again, people who might be new to Ironman branded races, it's not like your normal kind of race where it's local domestic where you put everything together and they have a dirty transition, as they call it. Ironman uses a bag system where you have to put everything in the bags the night before, and you'll rack them as part of your pre-race setup. And you have a blue bag, which is your swim to bike bag. And again, we'll talk about the other side later on. And then also, if you want to use personal needs bags, there's an orange one for the bike, which means that, again, if you put something in it that you want to pick up on the bike course later on. But the blue bag, again, this is when you're coming out of the water and that short run up, you will have a location where your bag is either on the floor or on the rack in European. They lay them on the floor, Jason, in Arizona, or do they have a racking system?
From what I understand, and I feel like it changes every year, there's a rack. So,
Okay.
you run to uh, almost like a massive rack area as you exit the swim, grab your bag, and then hand it to the volunteer before you depart on your bike.
Yeah. And again, so you're coming out at the water, you'll grab your blue bag. That's the where you'll take out your helmet, you'll take out your bike shoes, you'll take out anything else you want to put on, and then you put your wetsuit in there. And as Jason says, once you're running out of was it before you grab your bike and head out to the bike mount line, you'll hand that bag to the volunteer and they'll take care of it. Um, Transition itself, what's your top transition tips for T1 for your athletes, Jay?
Yeah, it's a pretty massive transition. So day before, get a lay of the land. Use landmarks. Of course, the racks are numbered, but look, we all get a little delirious and silly when we exit the swim. So walk through the transition the day before. Know where your bike is. Know where the bike in and bike exit are, run out are. That's my biggest tip is just get a lay of the land and find a landmark. It doesn't need to be anything massive. A tree, a light pole, something to give you a little bit of direction to give you in the general area before you really pinpoint it as you get closer to your bike.
No, absolutely. And you're right about looking for landmarks that aren't going to move. I remember that I decided that there was a very brightly colored bike in my first Ironman, the pink, and I said, I'm definitely going to recognize that. As in, I just need my bike's beside that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the guy with the pink bike was a much faster swimmer than I, and when I came out, and there's no bike to reference. So
Yeah.
yes, a stationary landmark, a tree, a building, what number rack you're in, and walk it a
Mhm.
couple of times. Take a picture on your phone and all that, so you
Great
can
idea.
track down. So, and in terms of the heading out the mount line, the mount line, is that far from the exit, or is there much of a run into the run out of transition? Do you remember?
It's not too bad, no, and it's mostly grass too, so pretty comfortable to run on. And no, the mountain line is not too far. You'll be able to get on the pavement and into your bike effort pretty quickly.
Great, cool. So yes, again, and a tip for myself, I always give my athletes is, especially when you're in the big load of people heading through, the pointy guys, the pros don't need to worry about this too much. But when there's lots of people coming through and grabbing the bikes, don't just run over the mount line, which is the line where you have to pass the entire length of your bike before you can actually mount it. And then hop on, and don't just stop there, because lots of people do the same thing and end up having these little mini crashes. As I said, take an extra couple of steps, give yourself some space. It means you've room to throw your leg over the bike if you're doing a postman's, was it a flying mount, and you want to have people going to veer, you have chance to kind of keep yourself out. Okay, so single transition, it is the Ironman bag system. It's a bit of a run through, but as Jason said, make sure you know your landmarks and get familiar with it, and do expect, as Jason referred to, we get a bit of race brain. You've just come out, you've been in the water for 90 plus minutes. You're kind of your brain will be a little bit addled. So take your time and transition. Any other T1 tips for our guys and girls?
No, I think look, air temperature may be a little bit colder than the water, so maybe mid to low 50s Fahrenheit. I've even seen high 40s, so 13, 14 degrees Celsius. So you may be putting on arm warmers or toe covers at least, but we'll get into it on the bike. But it will warm up. But the thing about the desert that time of year is we have massive temperature swings. So yeah, pretty cold mornings, but then it's going to be pleasant, 17 to 19 degrees Celsius, 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the day itself. So just be mindful of that in your bike gear bag, that you may need maybe some throwaway gloves, arm warmers. Really depends on your comfort level.
Absolutely, and that's a great call as well. In the beer in the gear bag as well, you can put whatever you want in it, and then whatever you don't use, it just stays there. For the blue bag, your special need, the personal needs bag, you don't get them back. So don't put anything in there that's valuable. You expect like your favorite cycling jacket. Don't do that. If it's gonna be something that you might need later on, disposable, and never expect to get this back. But in your blue bag, which you will get back, as Jason said, you might come out and find it quite chilly. You can have arm warmers now. You can have a light cycling jacket, and you make that call when you're in transition. Actually, I am a bit chilly. It will take a while, so I'm going to put that on. If you feel actually I'm feeling good, I don't need it, just leave it in the blue bag. So better to be looking at it than for it on race day. Cool. Great tips there, Jay. Okay, we're going to move on to our actually just before we move on to the bike course, and I hope you're really enjoying these tips. As I said, it's great to have someone as knowledgeable as Jason, who has again got so many athletes through this course. That we'd really appreciate if you're enjoying the content that you like and subscribe to the channel. There you can subscribe to the button there from my video, but please check out Jason's YouTube channel. I'll give you also his contact details and all the way of getting in contact with him if you've got further questions at the end. And again, you can tap into that massive brain of Ironman Arizona knowledge. So hopefully,
Whoa, I don't know about massive, but thank you.
no, it's great. As having this level of insight is fantastic, especially for newbies. So, we'll share those details at the end. Bike course, 3 laps. What's the feedback on the course? Is it closed roads, good surfaces, TT
Mhm.
bike, road bike? What are we thinking, Jason?
Yeah, so the road, I'm sorry, the half the highway is closed. So the bike course takes you to what's called the Beeline Highway, the 89 here in Phoenix, Tempe area. We get the whole half of the highway. So you'll have two-way bike traffic. So you won't really have to worry about vehicles at all. But yeah, expect temperatures to be pretty chilly to start. So just be prepared that the first hour it's going to feel cold, which can make it really easy, unfortunately, to neglect your hydration early on. The fact of the matter that we're in the desert too amplifies that. So you're not going to be sweating at all. It's so dry here, but you're still working. You've got to hydrate that first hour. You've got to. And we'll get into some fueling tips a little bit later. I know Steve has another webinar that he'll probably link here as we get into that. But yeah, I've seen way too many athletes. I see them after lap one of the bike and it looks like they haven't touched the bottles. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Your bottles are full. So yeah, 3 loops, fast, not flat, but fast. It's 3 loops, about 2,500 feet of vertical gain. You can see on the profile there that it's a gentle rise out to the turnaround, and then you just rip it back. So if you're comfortable riding with a disc, I would use it. The wind can kick up on the later stages of the bike course as it gets into the day. But I still think it's a disc-worthy course, especially if you have a shallower front wheel. Biggest tips on the bike course are just if you train with power, it's really great on this course because you can control your effort going up the climbs and just ignore speed and then maintain tension on the chain with appropriate power going down. So it's definitely a course where you want to be able to pace objectively with a power meter if you have that opportunity. Otherwise, heart rate will serve you well. You just need to be mindful not to burn too many matches as you're going up each climb, especially if the wind kicks up, because you're going to see massive swings in your speed going out versus going down the Beeline Highway. Lap 3 can get very congested. So just be loud, be vocal. While it's not as technical course as you can see, it's just big out and backs. It can be really congested on lap 3 where there's massive accidents every year. I don't say that to sound like an alarmist. There's accidents every year because somebody gets distracted or somebody's blood sugar gets too low, and yeah, things can happen. So
yeah, and we've talked about this as well, Jason, and before. But at that point, as in you will have the stronger athletes to be on their third lap, and you might have the slightly slower, kind of weaker cyclists on their second or first. So it's in the the onus of the athlete to communicate. Listen, I'm overtaking, and watch on your left, la la la. Which we must make sure about that, which side they do to overtake in the States. But again, the more you communicate with your fellow athletes, the less chance you minimize the risk of something bad happens. Shout before they arrive. If you shout just as you're passing, they might panic, look, and veer, and then that will cause an accident. But even just listen, I'm coming, I'm overtaking. And be positive as well, as in go look. You've got this, as in you're doing well, as in keep it going, and remember to fuel. I'm all about sharing good karma on the on the race course. And again, that communication is key, making sure avoiding accidents. And you know what? If you look after your fellow athletes, you'll have a good race day. Um, what else? And road surface as well. Is it all on highway? So it's all pristine roads. Anything that people need to watch out for surface wise? Any train tracks they pass or anything like that? Or
No, a few years ago there was a pretty technical aspect of the course downtown that took you to the Beeline Highway, but they removed that chunk. So I'll expect a lot of aero bar time. Road surface is okay. It's not like a perfectly groomed carpet, but it's not bad. If you come out early and want to ride the course, just be mindful to look out for debris because they do sweep the course really well in the days leading in, but prior to that, it's pretty much full of debris. So I don't know. I wouldn't want you to risk get a couple punctures in your brand new race tires. So just be aware of that if you do go out for a practice ride, that there's so many thorns and whatnot on that road usually. But it is extremely well swept and well kept on race day.
cool. I presume that you won't have, you may be able to do a practice ride of some of the course, as in these sort of roads that seem the more secondary, but you're not anywhere. It won't be going anywhere near the highway to do any of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a really beautifully paved path. It's the run course actually, which we'll get into, just towards the bottom there of bike in and out, where you can head west, forever essentially. So do your practice riding there because it's a beautifully paved hike and bike path where there's a lot of cyclists and runners. I think that's going to be your safest spot to do your pre-ride gear check.
Cool. All right. And in terms of the turns, right, you've got your U-turn here, which you'll do 3 times or whatever. A couple of minorly sharp turns here, but it seems like a very simple, non-technical course, you said. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Not much to be worried about. There are some pretty sharp 90-degree turns at the start and end of each course where you're really going to need to be vocal. But other than that, it's head down, eyes up in the aero bars.
Yeah, agreed. And again, but those are the courses where it's danger. You can drift off and you sort of go, I sort of go either your power drops or you're sort of going, oh, this is just a straight line. So as you said, keep an eye on the power, keep an eye on your heart rate, whatever you're using to measure intensity, and just be switched on. Don't drift off. That's when accidents happen. That's worst case scenario, an accident happens. Best case, you might just lose time on your actual target split. Aid stations, we'll talk a little bit. There's one every kind of 15 miles on the bike. So there's one here at around 15, and then there's another one here, a couple on the highway, and just around at the turn of point. We'll talk a little bit about aid stations in the next slide. In terms of your cutoff time, your swim, your transition one time, and your bike time, you've got 10 hours and 10 minutes to get it done. Slightly less than the normal time, which you Ironman have for American races. That's normally around 10:30, but that reflects the fact it's a fast track. Any last minute bike tips there for the gang, Jason?
No, just don't dismiss your fueling early nor late into the bike. It's really easy to ignore your fueling for the first hour, but also the last hour. So stay on it. Once you hit the 90-mile mark, that's really where you set yourself up for your best run off the bike.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You said that in the Kalmar video as well, doesn't it? It's the last hour, half an hour where it's easy to think, oh, I've nearly got the bike done, but you're right, as in that's the fueling doesn't end there because you're just really sort of setting yourself up for a good run off the bike. So yes, you will feel like a champion coming off the bike, 112 miles in the legs, a good PB bike split, hopefully. But remember to fuel. Okay, doke. So we have nailed the bike, and now we're running on to actually we'll talk a bit about the aid stations. And this is a couple of things that again, a little bit quite Ironman brand specific in terms of aid stations. If you've done local races, you won't have this level of interaction, but a typical kind of Ironman aid station looks like this. You've got one place you can chuck your bottles or exchange, throw empty bottles at the start of an aid station and one at the end. If you try to throw your bottles anywhere else and get spotted, you will rightly get a DQ because you're being a dick. We're in someone else's country or county. Make sure you just respect that. So the Ironman are very strict on this, and it's something I completely condone. Don't if you end up littering in the middle of the B-way highway, if you caught by a marshal, you'll get DQ'd. Obey the rules. Otherwise, you've got options for water, mortal hydration, the new hydration of choice on Ironman races, and food, typically is bananas and stuff like that, or energy bars. You have Morton gels, another chance to pick up an isotonic drink in Mortal, and another chance to pick up a water bottle. So don't panic if you miss here, and know that this is the typical mirror flow. Mortal hydration, what's the feedback from your athletes so far who've tried out this new wonderful drink that Ironman are giving us this year?
Mhm. Flavor is nice. It's good. They think it's a way less strong or potent, taste than the typical Gatorade endurance that we've all grown accustomed to. But obviously, it doesn't have any or much of all carbohydrates, of course. So be mindful of your hourly carbohydrate target, in that you're not going to be getting any of that from the Mortal. So you're either going to have to up your Morton gel intake or carry your own sports drink. But yeah, that's a plan that needs to be in place before you travel to Tempe, because essentially all you're getting are electrolytes from the Mortal. But feedback in terms of taste and flavor, yeah, they love it. You just need to be aware that it's not doing much to fuel you forward.
Yeah, agreed. It's more helping keeping up like electrolyte levels. It's a higher salt content than Gatorade Endurance, if I remember. And again, yes, making sure you've got your fuel. And you're 100% right. You don't turn up to the Ironman races, any Ironman race, without having a plan and practice it in terms of where you're getting your calories from, and how you're going to carry your own fuel, where the aid stations on the bike and stuff like that. So no, we'll talk about that in a couple of slides. And again, the actual way to handle an aid station, it is a bit nerve-wracking if you're a newbie. And so myself and Jason could talk about the key things you need to do for ages, but to keep the video short, if you want to check out how you should use an aid station, things you should do, things you should not do, more importantly, there's a video in the comments below, and make sure you check that out. Again, it talks about not getting DQ'd for littering. It talks about how you kind of get the bottle from a volunteer, how you make sure you pull in safely, how you pull out safely, and some cool snippets from pros who do it, which is very impressive. Okay, doke. So we're back to our T2. Now we are going to be running through to pick up our red bag, which is our bike to run bag, and we might pick up our run as personal needs. T2 tips, Jason. What's the first thing you tell your guys to do?
Get in and out as fast as you can. Obviously T1 is going to be much longer. There's more to do. But yeah, get in and out as quick as you can. Obviously you're going to head back to where you departed for the bike. So should be fairly easy to remember where you left. Generally, I guess that depends on how well you fueled. If you're brain dead, maybe take more time in transition and top off the blood sugar. But yeah, it should be a quick transition. I like to remind athletes to do as much as they can on the move, in terms of put everything you have for the run in one little Ziploc baggie and head out. You can do a lot of that stuff as you're moving. Get your race bib, carry it out. As long as you have it, you're good. You don't need to have it on perfectly good to go. Put it on, put it all in a Ziploc bag and get out of there. And then you can do all that as you're moving. That being said, don't rush. Smooth and fluid. You don't need to rush out of there in terms of speed, but get in and out as quick as you can.
Yeah, no, I'm agreed. I like that concept as well. That go bag, we had discussion before, as in, yeah. So again, you're going to be coming in. Remember where the dismount line is. You have to get off the bike before that. And again, just make sure you slowly brake. You will run through. You cannot take your helmet off until you've racked your bike. So don't. And again, these are silly penalties people can pick up if you don't know. Rack your bike. Make sure you grab your red bag, and this is where you chuck in your helmet and etc. You put on your run, and that's where Jason's go bag is going to be. And he's 100% right in terms of take your time, but do not take too much time in T2. As again, in a go bag is a brilliant example of that. One thing I do recommend for my guys to take the time, and it's a definite value add. If you put on clean, dry socks, it'll set you for a better run. But as one of my athletes famously told me, and I told him I'll put this quote in all of my videos, he said, "Nothing good happens in T2. You get in, you get out. Because the minute you start sitting down, questioning your life choices, and you're sort of going, I've got a marathon to run, that's an awful long way. I've actually, and you start thinking about the magnitude of the achievement you've already banked. As you
Yeah.
said, if you're running and you've got your go bag and you're putting your belt on and you're putting your cap on and you're putting your gels in the back pocket, at that stage you're halfway to the first aid station which come along well, and you go, wow, okay, cool, we're moving, we're improving. And any other T2 tips for the guys?
No, just take it easy as you leave T2. You know, everybody feels like a rock star for that first 5K, but smooth, smooth. I don't want you leaving T2 and settling into your run any faster than you would start, you know, your weekend long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And the run course, here we have it. Two loops in Tempe, which
Mhm.
you'll come out of transition here. And it looks like you take a right first and head up the first U-turn. What's the run course like in terms of elevation, surface, crowd support?
Yeah, similar to the bike in that it's going to be a pretty fast run course. You don't have any significant climbs, pretty good uh, road surface. In fact, when you're on the south side of the waterway there, that's going to be a really nice like crushed pea gravel. Not saying that you're going to need trail shoes. Definitely bring your road shoes, but it's going to be very forgiving, in my opinion, and feel like a nice relief after you've gone coming off the pavement. So yeah, head straight out. That first aid station is pretty quick, so if you've done everything right in T2, you can probably blow past it, but it's usually pretty congested. And I'm pretty certain that your special needs bag is going to be right outside of T2 as well. Obviously, you won't want to hit that right away, but that's where it is going to be located for if and when you do need it. Crowd support is pretty great on the south side of the sport. So along the south side of the water where Steve's cursor is, it's pretty awesome. You know, the Tri Club village or tents are pretty much lined up all along that south run course. So
Cool.
it's always pretty fun and rowdy there. But you know, save your mental energy for that south side. I'm sorry, north side of the lake, especially through Papago Park. It can get pretty lonely there. So yeah, don't get too high on the south side. Save it for the north side when it's pretty lonely. In terms of fueling and pacing, as I said, you know, everybody feels good for that first 5, 10K. The marathon really doesn't start until that last 90 minutes, right? You know, and if you've paced your race properly, this race should not feel hard. No race should feel hard over this distance until the last 90 minutes. Like that's just the name of the game. It's going to be really hard in the last 90 minutes. But fuel well, you know, adhere to your fueling protocol. Obviously, you're going to be banking a little bit less calorically and carbohydrate wise on the run, given the nature of the stressors of running. But yeah, all in all, a very fast, enjoyable run. Air temps should peak out at around 75 degrees. Of course, things can change, but a really pleasant run. Not a lot of shade. So I think a cap is great. Yeah, I'm just rambling at this point, Steve. Go ahead.
I know, no, these are all great tips, especially for the newbie in terms of like making sure that you have a heat management strategy in case it does get hot, in terms of making sure you're keeping your core temperature down. I'm a big fan of never missing an aid station. And again, this is what they'll look like. Again, you get water and mortal hydration. The littering rule still applies here as well, guys. Do not end up chucking litter into Tempe and all that. These people are out to support us. The volunteers doing a good job. It's an insult if we start chucking rubbish. Um, but again, you'll have Morton gel. You've cola. Again, I tell my guys, as Jason correctly alluded to, the marathon really starts for me after the half. I was it after the half marathon. Then you
Yeah.
figure out whether you feel well on the bike, which again myself and Jason are a big fan of. Um, and your legs start everyone can do a first half marathon in an Ironman if they don't pace it right. But if you're beginning to struggle, I tell my guys, take on board that just sugary goodness that is Coca-Cola. It'll give you a bit of a kick up the arse. But again, never miss an aid station. And in terms of the aid stations, they were like it's one every mile. So as I said, this is when I was doing this part of the presentation, I felt like it was just raining bananas. They are plentiful. They are all throughout the course. Take advantage of them. Either take on board a bit of fuel, take on board a drink. Don't overdo it on the actual liquid intake. A lot of people make the mistake of, right, I'll throw in loads of isotonic drink, I'll throw in loads of Coke. That's not the aim of the game, because you'll run around with a big sloshing feeling in your stomach and
Yeah.
that will slow you down. Even it's just making sure that Jason said keeping the core temperature down and making sure you're getting a bit of fuel on it. Each aid station, it might be the case you're just grabbing a water and you're pouring it in your head depending on the temperature. Otherwise, you're getting a gel every kind of second or third aid station. And this is where this is my favorite part of the race day, as I feel like I actually get some money back from Ironman, as in like I try to eat at least one or two Eight Morton gels there at all because they're expensive and I've paid a lot of money to Ironman. So this is my way of getting a bit improving my cost benefit analysis on this one.
100%.
Um, any other tips on the run course? It looks like as you said, I can definitely see this side of the river being rowdy as well, especially so close to the finish line. Any other tips or insights?
Yeah, look, the most challenging aspect of the run is probably that little lump through Papago Park where you've got to hit a climb. Other than that, it's going to be a very easy course to manage your effort. Yeah, I really enjoy the course. I think it's very runnable. You can run a very strong marathon here, just given the climate, given the competition and amount of age groupers you're going to have to push you, and the crowd support again is top notch on the south side.
Cool, excellent. And in terms of getting the job done, you swim, transition one time, bike split T2, and your run time, you've got 16 hours, 40 minutes. Again, so it's 20 minutes shorter than what you would have as a standard full distance in the likes of Florida, etc., and Texas. But that reflects the fact it's meant to be a fast course. And again, if you follow the tips that Jason has outlined in terms of pacing well, fueling well, position yourself to swim well, and again, just managing your effort, you will not have a great day out, and that won't be a problem. And this is what we're looking at finish line wise. I love this picture. This guy has been an absolute champ and is loving life at the end, showing he's done the job. Um, Finish line, any insights on that?
Yeah, look, it's not Kelmar, but it is a pretty awesome look. Every Ironman finish line gives you goosebumps, right? So it is a really long finishing stretch where you really get to soak it in. Yeah, it's a great finish line in downtown Tempe. Really cool backdrop, and the finish chute is pretty long, and it's usually 4 or 5 rows deep with spectators. So yeah, I really enjoy this course. I'll be out there all weekend if anybody has any questions, and yeah, happy to share my insight on the course. I love it. You know, it's a hometown course. I ride the course all the time. I run in Tempe all the time. There's a lot to love about this venue.
Yeah. And my tip for finish line, especially everyone comes over the line and they do that mistake of they try to stop their Garmin. Don't worry about your Garmin. Don't worry about time because you'll ruin your finish line picture. This guy has got it going on. He's already thought about exactly how he wants his finish line picture. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's one of up in the pride of place on the in the house. But that's just an awesome picture. And again, also don't if give yourself time to get the picture on your own. Don't sort of like, end up being behind someone. Even if you give yourself a bit of space and make sure you got this is finish line picture is your cherry on the cake of an absolute job. Well done, hard work, trained for. So make sure you get a good finish line picture. And that's great that you're going to be at the course in terms of I'm sure you'll be wearing your Toro tops and all the rest. And people, if
Sure. Yeah.
you do spot Jason, make sure you go up and say hello, tell him you enjoyed the video, ask him any questions. He's a very affable guy. He's very passionate about the sport, so he will give you any last minute tips, any concerns. He will definitely help you out. Um, right, just some other considerations myself and Jason will talk about that will become more pressing closer to race day. Jason's 100% nailed the point, and you need to have your race day strategy in advance for nutrition, practice it. Again, we could go on that could be a 3 hour video at some point, but there's a video in the comments below where I'll give kind of key things you need to be aware, how you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, how you're going to keep on track. when you're closer to race day, how you're going to make sure you have everything packed. There's a beginner's guide to packing and a downloadable checklist. Taper, which may seem a long way away, but it will come around soon enough. And then just make sure that you don't fall into typical taper mistakes, convinced you're getting ill, convinced you're injured, trying to squeeze in additional training sessions. Trust in your process, trust in your plan. And we go through all those items there. Other last minute tips about booking and like simple things that you just want, because you're so focused on the training, it's hard to see through the forest for the trees. Making sure you've booked your bike in for service the last couple of weeks, making sure you pack all the chargers, reading the athlete guide, watching these great videos, dropping Jason any questions. Like, these are things that you should definitely take advantage of. That's the last minute video there. Timetable of the venue. We'll talk a little bit about this, and we'll give them some contact details. They can check in on Thursday and Friday from around 12 p.m. A couple of athlete briefings. There is no check-in on Saturday, so you have to have this done by Thursday and Friday. What's your last minute tips for your athletes when they turn up to the race venue? Jason, anything insights you give them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is people get, maybe a little insecure and try to do one last session to validate their fitness, as you hinted. I think I think it's easy to do, but the folks you see running around or peacocking have their own insecurities. So yeah, don't fall into that trap. Trust your training and just don't do anything you usually wouldn't do. Eat your typical food. There are plenty of great restaurants. There's a Whole Foods like 5-minute walk from the venue. So no shortage of good food options. Flying into Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, you're literally a 10-minute drive to the race venue. So yeah, very easy course to navigate for people flying in. And I'm happy to answer any, questions about pools or local bike shops and whatnot, because there are plenty of good options.
No, that's fabulous. And again, so much appreciate this. This is a great resource to have, again, being so local, etc. And again, yes, absolutely, 100%. I tell my guys, it's trust in your tapers, minimize your time on your feet. And also, what I get a lot of feedback and WhatsApp messages from my guys when they turn up on like race sites, they go, everybody else looks so much taller, skinnier, and stronger than us. And you sort of go, don't panic. I guarantee you will finish it ahead of around 70% of those guys. Like, lots of people can look the deal, but can they deliver on race day? Do they have a good race day strategy? Do they have they had top quality coaching from like Toro coaching? I this is the kind of key things. And don't be intimidated. There's a lot of the key about the days leading up to a race is minimizing that loss of energy through stress. And again, that's minimize your time in the expo. It's very exciting, but it's time on your feet. It's people. So you're going, oh my God, that guy looks so much stronger than me. I guarantee you'll pass him on the run as he's doing. He's had a PB bike split, and then he's stretching his hamstrings on the run because he's having an injury because he didn't pace it well.
Yep.
Make sure you attend the athlete briefing. And Jason said, I'm not a fan of telling my guys to carbo load as well. What's your take on that? I think that's more of a marathon thing than Ironman training.
Yeah, we definitely increase, the carbohydrates, the 24 to 48 hours before, but we don't go over the top. I think there's a pretty clear difference between overeating and carbohydrate loading. But yeah we've got a pretty regimented program that athletes will use for all their long weekends. So come race day, it's just another long weekend. They know what they're going to eat the morning before, which is definitely higher in carbs, higher carb lunch, and then pretty typical dinner, so that athletes can, have a regular bowel movement in the morning. I think a lot of the trap that people fall into are these massive pasta feed dinners that some races put on. So they're, pounding down 2 kilos of pasta at 7 p.m. the night before. I'm like, how do you expect to feel good in the morning?
Yeah, and how can you sleep with that amount of food digesting? Yeah. Like, so yeah, it's uncomfortable digesting. It's like, and you said you wake up feeling bloated. So yeah, I just tell my guys, look, eat what you normally eat, but a little bit more of a portion size, but you're not force feeding yourself, because it does come down to nutrition wise when you're fueling yourself more during the day, because the body can only store so much glycogen. It's like its energy source. So it's not as if you're going to fill it up, and then but when those are exhausted, you just need that's where your fueling strategy comes in, making sure you, as you said, regardless of temperature, keep on top of your fueling, and we're never missing aid stations on the run, etc. So no, yeah, that's good. We're on the same page there. In terms of the last couple of days, and you have the Saturday, which you cannot check in, so you need to again plan your logistics accordingly. Get there early, absorb some of the atmosphere. Don't leave everything last minute. I always panic. I always stress when my athletes go, I'm just driving the day before the race, and said, no, what happens if your bags get lost? What happens if there's a problem with the bike? None of these problems are insurmountable if you've got a few hours and a little bit of local knowledge with a local bike storage to get something fixed. And you've put 6, 9, and 12 months of training into this. Why skimp the day beforehand? Um, practice swim is available 9 a.m. on the Saturday. Again, I think you're a bit, you wouldn't recommend it, Jason?
I mean, I think there's far more to lose than to gain. Absolutely. It's not a technical course. The only thing you're going to be getting a benefit out of is the water temp. So yeah, put your arm in there and take a cold shower. In my opinion, I think as long as your body is prepared for a cold swim, and we kind of prepare the central nervous system for what to come, you can be prepared. But yeah, it's not the cleanest body of water. And I think the risk of getting some sort of bug or any kind of nausea the night before an extreme event it's not worth the risk. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen not only at this race, at plenty of other races, whether it's Classic, California, you name it.
Yeah, Texas as well. We myself and my guys when we were racing it, we made the call. We had a look at the water, said, "Look, we'll survive at race day, and there's nothing going to happen immediately afterwards. So, but it's not worth the risk." Agreed.
Agreed.
And again, now that you will need to check your bike in and drop in your gear bags, your red bag and your blue bag, as we discussed the night before. You will only pick up your timing chip after you've checked in your bike. That's Ironman's way of controlling. They know that people who are gonna race will race, and therefore their head count almost. So don't panic when you do register and you get your cool backpack. And what I love in American race, they give you a little flag and a little cap, and all the other goods, your bags in there. You will not get your time chip until you check in your bike. So don't panic if it's not there. And the minute you get time chip, just stick it on your left ankle and then just leave it there for the next couple of days. Do attend the athlete briefing. As informative as this video is, and again, thanks a million to Jason for all the insights and the top tips. Something might change in the last couple of days, and again, that's where they'll get that information to you in the athlete briefing. So don't miss one of those. But there's loads of them. There's the ones on Saturday, all on the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Make sure you attend. Your big adventure starts at 5 a.m. on the Sunday. Make sure you get there. You have a couple of hours an hour and a half to get sorted and transition. Your swim day, your date with destiny will start at 10 to 7. So make sure you give yourself some time. Any tips for the morning of the race you give your guys specifically?
Yeah, plan to bring something warm. You can even just get in your wetsuit, but I know it's annoying to get in your wetsuit and then have to use the bathroom one last time. So bring some, sweatpants and a nice jacket. There's no long walk to the swim start, but that concrete is really cold. So your pro tip, yeah, bring those hotel slippers so you don't have frozen feet as you wait to get in the water. Yeah, just prepare for a cool race morning.
It'll be
But
dark as
yeah,
well. Would you recommend a head torch for transition, or is it well lit?
it's well lit. There are like almost stadium lights around the T2, but even with that, there are like dark pockets. So yeah, bring a headlamp or head torch for sure.
Cool. And the other top tip, as I said, and we've discussed this before, that don't put your fuel, water bottles, or bike computer on the night before, as in like you will have access to your bags, you will have access to your bike. So use that time to put the fuel on last minute, do last minute checks, rather than if you put on your Cliff blocks and they're all cut up and they're in the little box, and if you leave them the night before, you can guarantee there'll be a lot of insects on it the next day. So just put it in as you get there early. I get my guys to make sure that they if possible, try to arrange that last minute bowel movement again. The if you can, or up early. For me, I find the power of caffeine works wonder for me, so I do that first thing, and I don't need to worry about going to a portaloo there. But I will be in transition around 5:30. It means if anything's gone wrong, someone's knocked my bike to the side, if there's a problem with my tire pressure, I've got again, nothing's cannot be fixed if you give yourself time. And you don't want to be the guy who turns up at 6:15 and see that your tire has popped overnight and you go like, oh, how do I fix this? Give yourself time. Jason, any other last minute tips for the gang?
I think we covered it. I think we covered it.
I think we've done a bloody good job. And again, as I said, one last a very was a grateful thanks to Jason for his sharing his insights. It's great chatting with these on these courses. As I said, it's almost dangerous because I've done a couple of these courses with you. Now my bucket list is growing larger and larger. I'll probably end up with all these race reviews having done most of these races personally, but it's great that you shared Arizona insights. Jason, as I said, is a very very friendly and open guy and a superbly knowledgeable coach, as you can see. And he's more than happy to take any last minute questions. If you just ping him there via his email, and there's his contact details for his absolutely superb coaching company as well. Do check him out. He's there on race day. If you see him, go up, say thanks, just ask for any last minute tips. He's a very, very generous man with his time. So again, thank you very much for sharing the time with me, Jason. Thanks very much for sharing and taking time with the video. And any last minute words for the gang?
No, have fun. Enjoy the day. Thank a volunteer, like you said, and get ready for it's a PR course. You've done the work. I think it's a very cool and fun, fast course to really showcase your fitness.
Yeah. And just on that, again, this might sound strange to a newbie, and it's something that my coach told me at the time when I was getting into the sport. He said, it's your first Ironman. Make sure you take mental pictures because this day will go faster than you realize it. So you might end up spending it looking at your Garmin the entire time, looking at your power numbers, looking at. So he told me in the water, just before we get in, look around. There's lots of noises, an amazing community around you, and take that as a mental snapshot. And I did it in Frankfurt. I went and at that stage there's hot air balloons, there's helicopters
Wow.
overhead. It was, and it took that, and then he went when you're going through on the bike again. Yes, keep an eye on your numbers. Yes, keep an eye on your hydration, but just go. And we were going through the small little village, and I went, and there was these like German ladies out banging pots and all the rest. I went, I want to remember that. That snapped in my head. And I said, towards in the on the run, high five people, talk, interact with your fellow athletes, and then take a snapshot, and then have your finish line moves ready. And I literally have those three pictures in my head. I don't remember an awful lot of it, because it's as you said, that race brain kicks in, but I've got them, and that's my top tip for a newbie. When you're going to go over that finish line, you're going to hear those classic words, you are an Ironman, and enjoy every last minute of it. You very much deserve it. So that's from me and Jason. Again, best of luck. Keep an eye out for Jason on the course.
Thanks, guys.